Oh, okay. So this week we're missing Amanda. She's taking, so she never takes time off, and she
No.
gets, so I'm going to step in for her on this opener. This week, this is a good show. We're pulling back the crystal curtain and we're talking about spiritual bypassing. I think we've all kind of heard that before, but it's hard sometimes to know what that is. But have you ever caught yourself saying, oh, this is all love and light, when what you really wanted to do was scream into your pillow or ugly cry at the Trader Joe's parking lot? So maybe you've told yourself, oh, everything's forgiven. I've done my forgiveness work. It's all forgiven. But then you run into someone and deep down, you're replaying the conversation. You want to get back somehow. All that stuff's going on. I've been there. I'm sure you guys have too. So that is spiritual bypassing. And it's really sneaky, and it can look like insight, or it can sound like wisdom and feel super peaceful on the surface. But underneath, there's a whole mess of avoidance, unprocessed pain, and the deep fear of being vulnerable. So how do we know when we're actually healing? Interesting. And when are we spiritually sidestepping or bypassing? So buckle up, because today we're going to go into it. We're going to hopefully have some stories. I still do it. And I mean, not like I'm enlightened or healed or anything, but I work really hard to be a good person. And sometimes I feel like I think I'm there. And then those old stories come in and I act on them. So, anyone else? Anybody do any spiritual bypassing here? Or is that a show? I'm the only one.
I don't think so.
Certainly have in my life. It's something that I've become aware of in the past several years and actively try to avoid doing, but it can be tricky to identify, like when you're spiritual bypassing and when you're just having a moment of spiritual maturity and growth. So yeah.
Can you explain some more about spiritual bypassing? What do you mean? And is there an easy way to talk about it?
I think it's about, it might be easier for me to talk about what spiritual bypassing is not. I think when we are not spiritual bypassing, we are allowing the full range of human emotions and not stuffing down fear, anger, rage, sadness, because we judge those as lower vibration states or less than. It's allowing the human experience to be what it is, and allowing those emotions to express without wallowing in them. So that's kind of what's coming up for me. So then let's see, Penny, you want to take the opposite. So what does that mean spiritual bypassing is then?
Oh, well, I kind of do what you're talking about.
Which one, the wallowing or the allowing?
So I have spent many years of my life stuffing down everything because it wasn't safe for me to feel it. And I think that's part of my spiritual bypassing that I'm unpacking, is that, it wasn't, and I mean, I've been out of that house for 45 years, but it just wasn't safe to feel, because if you felt, there could be some hell to pay. And if so I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, Morgan, but for me, as we were even just beginning to even talk about this, is I feel that I've spiritually bypassed a lot because I didn't feel safe. And I think that's what you said too in the beginning, Melissa. I heard you say that. And so, I don't know.
You didn't feel safe to express your emotions.
Right. And so that kind of spilled over into everything, because, if I couldn't if I was taught as a kid that it wasn't okay to express them, then how could I even take care of them myself? Because I wasn't taught how to take care of them myself. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
So I think spiritual bypassing in that way is like, I don't need or I can't express my whole range of emotions. And there's some shoulds in there. It sounds like I should be more spiritual about this. I should be able to just forgive. And so you kind of act from that should place, like being the real spiritual person and putting a spiritual spin or a practice on something without allowing the feelings to be there. Or to feel it.
That's a good summary, Melissa. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think the forgiveness example hits really close to home. That's one that I think a lot of people can relate to. It's like that saying that you've forgiven someone, but still harboring a lot of resentment around the situation or a lot of whatever. That's a very clear example. What about you, Drusilla?
Yeah, I kind of describe it as a way that we make excuses for human behavior, even our own, and saying it's because of our spiritual beliefs.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, like if you have someone in your life and they are rude or mean, and it's intentional, and you might say, well, who knows what they might be going through, which is true.
Yeah.
But only if it can be true factually that we don't know, right? But if those things that they're doing to you are intentional and they're hurtful and you don't address them, then of course it's going to create some points of contention that's undealt with, right? So you're making excuses for the human behavior at the expense of your spiritual growth. And you're basically not elevating yourself. And that's why it's bypassing. Like the fact that we continue to have those same experiences is because we're bypassing. And it's really intended for growth. And
What would the non-spiritual bypassing way of dealing with that type of a situation look like?
The non-bypassing way? I think just dealing with things with compassion and with the intention of resolving the issue.
Like, I love you. I accept that there's stuff going on with you that I may not be aware of, and I'm not going to allow myself to be treated in this way or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And I do think that it happens like more often than not in spiritual communities, because we do err on the side of giving a person a break, and not challenging, not dealing with conflict. And it gets really gray. I know you all probably heard me say it a lot, because it does become challenging to kind of know the difference between, am I spiritual bypassing or am I really growing at a level that these things are so minor that it's not worth bringing up, right? And I think the way that you can know that is if you're in that person's presence, or you're discussing it with someone and there's still uncomfortable feelings or feelings of resentment or anxiety or whatever that specific activity brought. If there's any of that still there, then yeah, your chances are you're probably spiritually bypassing.
Agreed. Yeah, I think we all kind of have that barometer, have that gauge where we're like, ooh, something feels uncomfortable here, or I like resentment and resistance tend to be two big things that if you really feel some resentment, but you're acting like you don't, or you're really feeling some resistance to whatever is happening and it's not a full acceptance, but you're telling yourself, yes, I'm accepting, or it's what you're telling yourself versus what you're feeling.
So do you think that if we acquiesce in a situation, that could be spiritual bypass or not.
And you give it,
let's say that, okay, let me find a good example in my head. Let's say that I'm going out to lunch and I have some dietary restrictions, and the person I'm going out to lunch with doesn't, and they're like pushing their restaurant on me, and I know that I can't eat anything there. And I just don't want to argue anymore. So I just say, okay. And then I'm resentful because that person's having a great meal and I'm sitting here with a mediocre crap. I don't know if that's a good example, but I'm just going to use that as an example. So I acquiesced and I allowed the other person to choose the restaurant, even though I know that I don't blah, 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 eat gluten, whatever, eat eggs, dairy, whatever. But this restaurant was full of only eggs and dairy and gluten stuff. So is that spiritual bypassing, acquiescing or not? Or what?
I don't think it's the act of acquiescing that is the spiritual bypassing. It's the harboring the resentment and acting all love and light. And oh, it's fine. I'm fine. That is the spiritual.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In the name of spirituality.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It has to have that element.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So the non-spiritual bypassing route would look like acknowledging that I feel resentful about this. Mm-hmm. I don't want to feel resentful, but that's what I'm feeling right now.
Excellent.
I think. I don't know.
It makes sense. And I think we can work this out. And next time I get to choose the restaurant. No.
Yeah. Next time we can agree on a restaurant that we both can find, something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should talk a little more about the forgiveness one. I think that, was that you, Morgan, or Melissa that mentioned it? I think that one is a big one that's probably easier to understand, that we all probably have done it and have examples of doing it. Mm-hmm. Saying that we forgive someone for something they've done to us. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time thinking about how you can get back at them, or you wish you had dealt with it differently in the moment. I mean, it can be really complicated though. Like, even with my husband, and sometimes I have been on this forgiveness journey for so long that there are so many situations where I literally can forgive it in the moment that it's happening, and it's painful, Mm-hmm. But there has also been times, as I mentioned when we were talking about the grievances, that things were coming back, and that's how I know I didn't truly forgive, but a lot of the things that were coming up, they were before I started doing the heavy forgiveness work, so I apparently was doing a lot of spiritual bypassing earlier on, and I can assure you that was the case, and I felt it. I just didn't know it was a thing.
Well, I
truly just didn't know it was a thing.
Yeah, I just think forgiveness is so not linear. I mean, like, it's one thing to forgive someone for stepping on your toe, and another thing to forgive these really deep-seated, bigger, quote unquote, bigger issues. Like I worked for years on forgiving one of my relationships. And so I would have moments of feeling really clean and clear about the forgiveness. And then it would resurface as it wants to do. It's a cyclical process of healing. And I don't think that was spiritual bypassing, that it felt clear and it felt like I had truly accessed a place of non-judgment, forgiveness, love for the person. And then those lower unwanted emotions resurfaced, and I had to go at it again. So there can be spiritual bypassing in it for sure, but sometimes it's just not a very clear-cut linear process, and you're definitely spiritual bypassing if you say you've forgiven someone, but you still sometimes have negative feelings about them. I don't think that's true. that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. I agree, definitely. But I do know that I was spiritual bypassing a lot of the times.
Yeah. And
Past. Like today, what would look different about it? And I think this is it, exactly what you're saying, Morgan. What would look different is that I would make sure that I did sit in the feelings and I would own them and I would be sure about what it was I was feeling and asking why I felt that way about what they did or said. And just to make sure I did go through all the inquiry steps to make sure that I really understand what I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing before I vow to forgive.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Penny, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just, I always like to put the Al-Anon lens on top of all of this. And I was just thinking about all the amends work that I've done. And since that's well, making an amends is slightly different than forgiving, but it's the same at times also. But I think it's mainly I'm forgiving myself for the way I've behaved and letting the person know or people know that this is how I'm going to change my behavior. So I was just thinking about that it's layers too. I think that's what you were saying, Morgan, is that there's layers to this work. And so when I did my first round of resentments, it was, I think, or my amends, I think that, which is based on resentments, by the way, I think that when I did that, there were certain people that I was willing to do the amends to, and then there was other people that I just wasn't willing to. And but then, as like 2 years later down the road, I became willing to do those amends as well. It's interesting. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. How it compares to both if I'm not bypassing, or if I am bypassing. And if I, like when I said, hell no, I'm not going to do it to these, make my amends to these people, was that spiritual bypassing, or was I just not ready for it? You know what I'm saying? And what?
I would think the latter, but I guess that's really only a question I can answer.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's the latter also, but I'm just trying to, I'm really sorting it out as we're talking right now. So I don't have it sorted out, but it's interesting to just kind of put the spiritual, is this being spiritual or bypassing being spiritual?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's like a mask. You're telling yourself, you're putting your own mask on and you're putting it on for everyone else. Like, oh, I'm just so spiritual. I forgive that. And, it's part of my program to forgive you. And I forgive you. But the feeling you have is fudge them, or you're still feeling the shame, the anger, the resentment, that kind of stuff. But the face says, oh, I totally forgive you. That kind of thing.
Oh my gosh. I just got the visual of this.
Two-faced. Spiritually.
Total two-faced, Tony.
Yeah, spiritually two-faced. Or the church lady on Saturday Night Live.
Yes. That's it. Yeah. Know it. And so explain to the youngins like Morgan what the church lady is. What's her gig?
Oh my gosh. You just have to Google it. Go to Saturday Night Live, church lady. Dana Carvey is the church lady, right? Yeah. Oh my God. It's so hilarious.
Two-faced church lady.
Yeah. Yeah. Like holier than thou.
Yes.
And just not very spiritual at all.
And then ripping someone.
Yeah.
But I think the spiritual bypassing is when you're allowing it to, when you're putting the mask on and you're believing the mask.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
You're
yes.
Telling yourself, you put the mask on and you're like, I'm putting my forgiveness mask on because I'm so spiritual. And you're telling yourself, I'm such a spiritual, forgiving person, but your real feelings are hurt, angry, all that kind of stuff.
Oh my God, we called those people in church the hypocrites.
Yeah,
that is probably spiritual bypassing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I feel like we've all done it, though. I mean, we're definitely talking about it as an unfavorable thing, but we've all done it. Almost every human.
Mm-hmm. And I think some of it is like, I want to be there. Like, I really
exactly.
want to be a really
why do we spiritual bypass? I think that's part of it. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be further along than we are in our spiritual growth.
Yeah.
Or we want people to believe that we're further along on our spiritual path.
We want to believe it. We want others to believe it.
Yeah.
So
we're beating ourselves up that we're not.
From a compassionate angle, like it's just our little inner child seeking approval that does it. Like we don't need to judge ourselves or others for doing. I mean, definitely there's a lot of critics out there like who talk about spiritual bypassing and, make fun of people for doing it. We all do it, and we can just have compassion for ourselves when we find that we're in space, because we're doing it from a space of seeking approval, our own
or safety.
Or safety.
And the course tells us to keep trying to get it right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I love it. Gosh, that's so freeing.
I like it being out in the world. I just like hearing it because it gives you it's like a divine alarm clock, as we've heard. It's that oh, that's possible. I could be saying one thing and feeling another thing. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah. Because I don't really necessarily call it out on other people. It's mostly me calling myself out.
Yeah. I don't call it out on other people either. I don't think I do. I hope I don't. But what I sometimes do is wish other people I kind of bypass for other people. Like I don't allow other people the full range of their emotions, and I am healing it, but getting uptight when people express anger or any of what, we call the lower level emotions. That's some kind of weird twist on it, but I'm getting better about that.
Okay. So help me reason this out. So sometimes members of my family are upset about something, like they're just mad about something. And I kind of feel like they're projecting it on me a bit. Like, well, no, okay, let me take that back. I'm going to delete that last conversation. So when they're upset and mad, and it could be nothing that I had anything to do with, right? But then.
Wow, such an amazing topic today. But before we move on, I just wanted to take a quick break to share some information with you. But first, thank you so much for listening. We are so grateful for you. But did you know that the Lemonettes offer spiritual counseling and coaching to meet you exactly where you are? We realize that no two journeys are alike. So whether you're moving through grief, dealing with health challenges, or seeking to just deepen your spiritual practice, we are here for you. From love and relationships to executive coaching with a soulful perspective, you don't have to do it alone. We've got you covered. Please visit 5lemonslaughing.com for more information and to explore how you can work with us one-on-one. Your path is sacred, and we want to walk it with you. Also, if this episode spoke to you, the best way to support us is by liking and subscribing. And if you know someone who loves high vibration content, please pass this along. Your kindness and connection truly will make a difference in getting the word out. We're so grateful for your support. And don't go anywhere. Please stay tuned. We're just getting started. In the second half, we'll dive deeper and share tools and tips on how to overcome some of these challenges and do it with insight, humor, and heart. Thank you again, and see you on the other side.
But then I, in the past, have thought that I have to do something to make it right. But now I am not doing something to make them feel better. Like they have to make themselves feel better, right? I mean, that's what we're learning in the lessons this year. My happiness is up to me. If it's to be, it's up to me. Anyway, so then I'm curious, do you think that am I spiritually bypassing anything if I'm not trying to help them process whatever they're angry about? I don't know.
You're not being codependent.
Well, that too.
Spiritual bypassing.
No, but there was something about that in my head that I was thinking, God, is this spiritual bypass that, I don't know, now it's gone. So we can move on.
See the perspective of it. If you took it to the point of dealing with everything in life that way, like that's, going and living in a cave, then yeah, you're spiritual bypassing life, and there is no point in that. So if you look at it from that point, from that standpoint, in which I've done that a little bit with my family, that I don't engage as much. And I ask the same question, is it serving me to not engage as much, and therefore I don't have as much drama to deal with, or does it serve me better to be in the midst of the drama and be able to do what you said, to help them make more loving choices, I think is what you're trying to say, right? Well, yeah, I asked myself the same question. I don't know the full answer. But to me, I think it means when I've practiced enough that I think I can stand the weight of being responsible for it again, then I think I will know when that time has come.
That's a good point, Drusilla. Yeah, because I'm still practicing.
Yeah.
Because I'll go, oh, maybe I should help this person right now. It's not my responsibility, though. I know it's not.
Not if they don't ask for it.
Exactly.
Well, and that's a good point, Melissa. Yeah.
I think spiritual bypassing in that situation would be like shutting it out and not acknowledging like any discomfort it may bring up in you, any desire to want to jump in and fix it. Like you can sit with all of those emotions and be spiritually mature enough to know it's not your battle. It's not your thing to fix. It's not wrong or bad that they're having this discomfort or they're having this experience. And the spiritual bypassing would be like, la da 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 da, everything's fine. How to feel uncomfortable in that situation. But it sounds like, that discomfort will probably start to self-regulate the more you practice it. And then you'll be able to just allow people to have their experiences and not feel uncomfortable when it happens as you practice. I don't know. Yeah.
No, that makes complete sense, Morgan. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Or if you're acting as the focal point, then it may dissipate and it may not happen at all, or less and less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another question for you all. So growing up, we never talked about what was really going on in our house. Dad was beating up mom and screaming and yelling at her and stuff like that. It was like those dirty little secrets that we keep that we don't share with anybody. So because we didn't share it with anybody and we kept putting up with it, I mean, what was that? Is that got anything to do with spiritual bypass or not? No.
It would be spiritual bypassing would be if you're like, we totally learned from that. Everything's okay now. I've progressed so far from that. But but inside you are feeling the pain.
Well, here's the problem. Here's where I think it could have been spiritual bypass, because everything on the outside looked okay. And isn't that kind of like what spiritual bypass is?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, went to church every Sunday,
But how much of it that is a really good question. How much of it is spiritual bypassing and how much of it is just not anybody else's business? Because when John Mark was drinking, I've always been an open book. I mean, so, if it felt like a safe space to share, I would let it all out and let people know what's going on in my life. But sometimes I just didn't feel like it and it wasn't their business and I was emotionally drained. And so, I didn't pretend like everything was okay. I just didn't bring it up. And so I don't know, maybe it was spiritual bypassing in your case, and maybe it was just nobody's damn business. And you were just doing what you could. And
well, maybe it wasn't spiritual bypass for me because I was just a kid. Well, I was a teenager also, but maybe it was for my mom because she just kept putting up with it. I don't know. I shouldn't be taking my mom's inventory, but I mean, I was there. I know what she did, but yeah. Okay.
Spiritual bypass.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay,
let's hear it.
I'm moving to Europe, right? In like 5 weeks. And a spiritual bypass for me would be everything's going to be fine. I just know it's all going to be great. God's going to take care of everything. I have it. I don't really need to get that worried about it. It's all going to work out. In the meantime, I'm super stressed. So that would be spiritual bypassing. Like I'm trying to tell myself it's all going to be fine, but really I have the anxiety of moving a whole family to Europe, and it's like real. It's really real. I can't just explain it away by telling myself that it's all going to work out, even though I know it is. I can't cover up the fact that there is a lot of stress and anxiety in the whole move.
So what does the non-spiritual bypassing way of dealing look like?
So the non-spiritual would be, I'm not trying to tell myself it's all going to be okay. I will say, I don't know the future. I know it's all going to work out, but I don't know what the future holds. We may be back, we may not. And it's going to have its ups and downs. It's really going to, and it might be really tough at first. Is that right?
Well, and that's really future tripping tremendously.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's a spiritual bypass, like just trying to tell myself it's all going to be okay.
Well, and a non-spiritual bypass could be, okay, yeah, things are going to come up. Here's my list of things that I'm working on today. And this is all I can control today. Yes. And we'll just let go of the rest of it for the future, right? So you have to be in action to make sure. One of the things in some of the coaching that I'm doing is you create your future now, and then you live as if you're there already.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in Europe right now, Melissa. You're there. So how would somebody who lives in Europe act today?
Bonjour, Penny.
Oui, oui. No, but I mean that's the thing. My cat is about to die. I gotta that's the thing is that
yes,
I don't think that's spiritual bypass, living to the future that you want for yourself.
No, but telling myself without allowing all the complete,
like shushing yourself,
shushing myself. Yeah, shushing myself with, especially I think with like spiritual concepts.
Mm-hmm. I think so. One way that it could look to not spiritual bypass could be like to coddle your inner child and say, I hear you. I hear that you're worried. We have trust and faith that things are going to work out. And it's okay that you feel worried and anxious and stressed about this right now. And we're just going to take it one day at a time, one step at a time. I
know.
Yeah.
Hey, so I have a little tool that we could maybe play with for a second around that, Morgan. Thank you for reminding me that this is it's called the self-love power practice. And so let's just do it. Are you guys willing to play with me?
Yep.
Okay. So just close your eyes and imagine your little kid, your little girls with you, little boy. And you're sitting side by side each other. And your little mini me is upset about something, or they're anxious about moving to Europe or whatever it is. And so the self-love power practice is you just ask yourself a couple of questions. And the first question is, sweetheart, what is it that you're feeling right now? And then Melissa, if you want to play along with me, if you could act like, have your little Melissa share what she's feeling right now.
Okay. I don't know if we should be doing this. I don't know if we should be doing this. Just fear.
Okay. And so then when you get the fear that came up, then you just say, oh, I can see that you're feeling fear. And then what else? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So go ahead and say it to yourself. Yep. Say it to yourself.
Okay.
Out loud.
Okay. Say it to myself out loud. Okay.
Well, for the example.
Okay. I can see that you're really scared. I can see you have a lot of fear about this.
Okay, sweetheart, what else are you feeling?
What else are you feeling? Sad. Just sad to leave everybody and sad about new changes.
I can see that you're feeling sad about the new changes and leaving everybody.
I can see you're sad about making these changes and leaving everyone.
Yeah, and then really ask her in the most loving, caring way, like you would talk to a little child, like, sweetheart, what else are you feeling?
Sweetheart, what else are you feeling? I'm gonna miss my mom. And yeah, just kind of this life here that I know.
Yeah, I can see that you're going to miss your mom and the life that you know.
Yes, I can see that you're gonna miss your mom and the life that you know here.
Now, sweetheart, what is it that you need?
Sweetheart, what is it that you need? I just need you to hold my hand really tight and not
Mm,
let it go.
I can see that you need me to hold your hand and hold it really tight and not let it go.
I can see that you need me to hold your hand really tight and not let it go.
What else do you need?
What else do you need? Just stay very close.
I can see that you need me to stay very close.
I can see that you need me to stay very close.
So, sweetheart, what else do you need?
So, sweetheart, what else do you need? I just need to feel sad.
Hmm, I can see that you need to feel sad.
I can see that you need to feel sad.
Is there anything else that you need, honey?
Is there anything else that you need? I just need not to be like too far out in the future,
Mm,
thinking about all the stuff out in the future.
yeah, so I can see that you need to not think too far ahead in the future.
So I see you don't need to think too far ahead in the future.
hmm And then just give that little Melissa a hug and let her know that you're going to be here and that you can come back to this practice at any time and any place that you're feeling the anxiety and the stress build up. And so then when you're ready, you can just shake your head a little and come back to the room.
That's beautiful, Penny.
Yes, it made me
Yeah.
emotional. So sweet.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
I did
Yeah.
have a little resistance in using those terms of endearments with yourself. Your
I
little
know. You have to find the word that works for you. But
Mhm.
sweetheart, honey, those are pretty benign ones, hopefully. you know, but that's a self-love power practice from the Catherine Woodward Thomas work that I do. It's a really powerful, and Melissa, I invite you to do that with yourself every time you start getting, freaked out.
Well,
Yeah.
that's not spiritual bypassing. That is like
Mm-mm.
sitting in it
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
exactly.
letting it and accepting it and allowing it.
Mhm.
I feel calmer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah. All it takes is a little love, right?
Yes. We ready to wrap this up with a bow?
Well, on
Okay.
that note, I think it would be wise to say that the work that we're doing, even though we're talking about spiritual bypassing, in any part of what we do could look like, or it could actually be spiritual bypassing. Um, it still can be just spiraling down. You take 3 or 4 steps up, you might spiral 1 or 2, but the goal is that you've always made progress, right? So we definitely want to say that it's not to stop trying just because you may have experienced bypassing and, shaming yourself for it.
Yeah.
That's not what we intended out of this podcast today. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah. I'd like to share something too. I last year, as part of my Kundalini yoga teacher training, we developed a class series, and it was based around the map of consciousness. And when we did the intro, we had to explain what the map of consciousness is. And because it's a scale going from lower to higher, it's easier to think in terms of better and worse. So we had to kind of introduce what we were doing and explain that it's not like one is better than the other. So I just wanted to read this little introduction, an excerpt from this little introduction that we wrote in case it's helpful in clarifying. So the only variable as you ascend the map of consciousness, which for reference goes from shame at the bottom to like enlightenment at the top. The only variable as you ascend the map of consciousness is the degree to which you embody love. Important things to understand about the scale are that the descriptions characterize your predominant state. What this means is that maybe you calibrate at the level of will, which is a 310 hertz calibration, but then something really scary can happen that makes you feel anxious and scared, like Melissa's little girl was just feeling, which calibrates at 200. This doesn't mean that you are now calibrating at 200, but just experiencing temporary emotions typically associated with lower energetic expressions. It's easy to look at the scale and say, wow, 500 love is better than 200 courage. And that is a misrepresentation or a misinterpretation grounded in the concept of polarity. Instead of looking at these states as better or worse, a more appropriate way is to simply view them as different gradients of the expression of consciousness. They're all simply a part of the human experience. Is blue fundamentally better than purple? No, they're just different colors with their own unique properties. Is a rose better than a dandelion? You may have a preference, but in reality, they just are what they are. And so a very enlightened being at 650 hertz is not better than someone calibrating at 200. They're just living in a different paradigm, which expresses itself accordingly. We are all at our own unique phase of evolution, which is in perfect harmony with nature. And realizing this breeds compassion for yourself and for others.
Wow.
So we're almost done. What you resist persists. The goal is not to bypass or avoid the lower vibration emotions and states of consciousness. As long as we're in density, we'll always experience the full range. And so avoid shaming or feeling guilty when you find yourself experiencing the quote unquote lower levels. That I think I probably need to find who to cite for that. We pulled it from different places on the internet. But anyway, I thought that was helpful.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I've only got 3 Post-its today. Let's do them. So the first one is, here we go. Spiritual bypassing is putting on the mask and believing you're holy.
I like that.
Yeah. And keep trying till I get it right. That's an ACIM quote that Drusilla said. I love that. And then Morgan, what you were just reading, the different gradients of the gradients of the expression of consciousness is what we're going through as we were discussing all those different potential or non-potential spiritual bypasses that we were discussing today, if that makes sense. Yeah. They're just different gradients. We're all just on a journey, right? Yeah. So what came up for you during this conversation I'm saying this to all of our beautiful listeners. Did you notice any places where you might be bypassing instead of healing? I know I did. It's a process, right? Well, the good news is that awareness is everything. And you don't have to be perfect, just like what Morgan read. We don't have to be perfect. It's just a gradient on the scale. And you just need to be willing. Willingness is really what will set us free. Willing to tell the truth, willing to meet the messy, raw, beautiful parts of your humanity. And Yeah, that's just the beautiful part about life is let's get messy. Let's squeeze a few lemons. Let's get it, messy and juicy all over the place, right? Yeah. So one of the things that you can do right now is on the squeeze, we're featuring a journaling series called Meeting the Shadow. It's for anyone who wants to stop running from their emotions and start finding truth in the dark. There's also a new guided meditation to help you connect with your body and breath. It's perfect when you're feeling disconnected or checked out. And if today's conversation sparks something in your heart, we invite you to take the next step on your journey with us. Whether you're seeking healing, clarity, or a deeper connection to your own inner wisdom, we're here to walk beside you. You can reach out to any one of us for a one-on-one session. We provide spiritual counseling, Kundalini yoga practices. We provide coaching. It's just really an awesome opportunity for us to help you open the door to the miracles, the loving transformation, and the life you truly desire. So remember, the universe responds to your willingness. So say yes and watch what unfolds. Thank you so much for joining us today. Your transformation is our greatest joy, and we can't wait to connect with you again soon. See you all next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.